On the day my ex-wife, the famous perfumer Ning Mo, announced her engagement, we met again at the club. After 5 years apart, she had become worth hundreds of millions, while I, forced by circumstances, had taken a job as a male model at the club. Her fiancé, to humiliate me, used 200,000 as bait, making me compete with a dog for food. Ning Mo watched me bend down and contemptuously curled her lips. So, that better future you once spoke of turned out to be becoming an escort here for others' entertainment? Lu Fei, thank you for the favor of abandoning me. Now I find even looking at you disgusting. She didn't know that I was in the late stages of uremia. 5 years ago when she was dying, it was my kidney I gave her. Now, setting aside my dignity and allowing myself to be trampled, I only wanted to choose a good burial place. After waking up, looking at the blood-stained sheets, my tears flowed uncontrollably. Just as I was awkwardly wiping away the bloodstains, my phone vibrated once. It was a message from the cemetery manager. Mr. Liu, you only need 200,000 more to process the paperwork for the burial plot you're interested in. If you're determined to have it, please make the payment as soon as possible. This burial plot was the final resting place I had chosen for myself. After replying, I changed into my uniform for the club and prepared to go to work. A few days ago, I was hired as a male model at a high-end club. Although this job wasn't respectable, I had no other choice if I wanted to quickly save up the 200,000. Unexpectedly, as soon as I walked into the club's lobby, I heard a familiar voice. I looked up and saw Ning Mo and her fiancé, Si Chun, standing not far away. Instantly, my heart tightened, and I instinctively wanted to avoid them. But Si Chun deliberately called out loudly, "Isn't this Lu Fei? So you work here, huh? What's your badge number? Let me see." I lowered my head, not wanting them to see the expression on my face. Si Chun persisted relentlessly, grabbing my arm and loudly reading the number on my badge. 250. Haha, what a fitting number. Ning Mo's expression grew increasingly unpleasant. Lu Fei, how have you fallen to such a state? I clenched my teeth, not wanting to show weakness in front of them. But Si Chun wouldn't give me any chance to breathe. Lu Fei, I heard the income for being a male escort here isn't bad. With your good looks, you must make 50,000 a day, right? The surrounding crowd burst into laughter, sending a sharp pain through my heart. But I knew I couldn't cause conflict with them here. Si Chun, what exactly do you want? Hearing this, he smiled slightly. Nothing much, just want to give you an opportunity. As he spoke, he pulled out a check from his pocket and waved it in the air. 200,000. It's yours if you're willing to perform by competing for food with my pet dog. RT shuddered, a feeling of humiliation surging like a tide. But looking at that check, my heart was again filled with struggle. Nearby, Ning Mo's eyes were full of contempt. Lu Fei, are you really willing to give up your dignity for money? A pang of bitterness rose in my heart, but I still turned to Si Chun. Fine, I agree. Ning Mo looked at me, his eyes filled with disappointment and disgust. Lu Fei, you still make me sick, just like before. After saying this, she turned and left. Meanwhile, I was dragged by Si Chun to a private room, where he placed a dog bowl in front of me. Then he smiled mockingly. Come on, eat quickly, don't disappoint me. With trembling hands, I reached for the food in the bowl. Just then, Si Chun suddenly grabbed my hair and forced my head down into the dog bowl. My face pressed tightly against the dish, humiliation and anger nearly driving me to lose my mind. Ha ha ha, Lu Fei, you're really fucking worthless. Then Si Chun burst into laughter and released his grip. After a long while, I finally raised my head, wiped away the food residue from my face, my heart filled with despair. What's with that look? Not satisfied? Want me to say sorry, Brother Lu? Si Chun and his other friends exchanged glances, their faces showing undisguised mockery. Meanwhile, Ning Mo sat with a dark expression, silently drinking his alcohol. Seeing this, Si Chun's eyes flashed with a hint of jealousy, and he stood up wanting to humiliate me again. But this time he was stopped by Ning Mo, who grabbed me and coldly left the private room. A loud noise came from behind, and I knew it was Si Chun venting his displeasure. After reaching the end of the hallway, I hurriedly shook off Ning Mo's hand. She gave a cold laugh, her tone contemptuous. Is this the promising future you talked about back then? Lu Fei, abandoning me when my life was in danger just to become someone's plaything. You really are far-sighted. 5 years ago, Ning Mo fell seriously ill, with both kidneys diagnosed with a virus. Without telling her, I was tested for compatibility, and after unexpectedly qualifying, I chose to donate without any hesitation. But I suffered severe rejection reactions, losing 10 pounds in just 3 days. The doctor said I wouldn't last a year. To prevent Ning Mo from experiencing the same pain as me in the future, I schemed to trick her into divorcing me. But unexpectedly, I've managed to survive for more than 5 years. After I broke Ning Mo's heart, she met a benefactor who helped her rise to become a top perfumer. She also established herself firmly in the entertainment industry and developed feelings with the big star Si-chun, just announcing their engagement yesterday. Returning from my thoughts, I smiled brightly at her. You're right, this money came quickly, perfect for a materialistic man like me. Ning-mo, I wish you and Si-chun a happy marriage and a lifetime of happiness together. As soon as I finished speaking, Ning-mo raised her hand and slapped me. Her eyes reddened, and the atmosphere around her became extremely tense. This slap is for the me who once wanted to grow old with you. Lu Fei, get out. I never want to see you again. I strongly suppressed the urge to cough, using all my strength to stand up, but my medical report accidentally fell out. Ning-mo picked it up first, and after reading the words on it clearly, her brows furrowed tightly. The next second, she unexpectedly slapped me again. You knew I was coming today, so you deliberately prepared a fake medical report, didn't you? Lu Fei, you're wrong. For someone like you, even if you died right in front of me, I wouldn't shed a single tear. After hearing Ningmo's words, my heart felt like it was being pierced by countless needles, the pain making it almost impossible to breathe. But in the end, I still managed to nod reluctantly, forcing a smile uglier than crying. It's better if you think that way. After speaking, I turned to leave. But before I could walk a few steps, my vision suddenly darkened, and I collapsed to the ground. In the last moment of fading consciousness, I vaguely felt that leaving like this wasn't so bad. At least I wouldn't have to see Ningmo's eyes full of disgust anymore. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself lying in a hospital bed, and panic rushed through my heart. If Ningmo were to find out about my illness, then everything I had insisted on before would have been in vain. I tried to get up, but my body felt as heavy as if it were filled with lead. Just then, I saw Ningmo come and sit down in the chair beside the hospital bed, looking at me with a complicated expression. Her eyes no longer held the disgust and contempt from before, replaced instead by an indescribable complexity. You're awake. Ningmo's voice was soft, carrying a trace of barely perceptible concern. I was stunned for a moment, then quickly recovered, forcing a smile. I'm awake. Ningmo frowned slightly. Why did you suddenly faint? The doctor said you have high blood pressure, and it's quite serious. My heart tightened, but I quickly composed myself. Oh, I might be too tired lately, haven't rested well. But Ningmo clearly didn't believe my words. She stared at me, her eyes carrying a hint of inquiry. Lu Fei, what exactly are you hiding? That medical record, was it actually forged? I felt a bit flustered, but tried to appear calm as I explained. Of course it was fake. What? Don't tell me you're having feelings for me again and want to get back together. Just then, Ningmo's phone suddenly rang. She glanced at the caller ID, her brows slightly furrowed, but she still answered the call. Si-chin's voice came through from the other end, with a hint of sobbing. Ningmo, where are you? Are you still Chu? Sing him over me. Ningmo glanced at me, a flicker of hesitation in her eyes, but she quickly responded to him in a gentle voice. No, don't overthink it. I just came to check on him. After all, he was once my husband. Si-chin on the other end clearly didn't believe her, his voice becoming more agitated. Ningmo, don't lie to me. Just tell me, do you still love him? Hearing this, Ningmo was silent for a moment, then said, Si-chun, it's you I love. Only you. Don't overthink things. I'll be back soon. I closed my eyes, enduring the pain, not wanting to hear her profess her love for Si-chun. Yet even after hanging up the phone, Ningmo still didn't leave. We stared at each other for a long time, neither of us speaking. After a while, I deliberately shifted my gaze away. What do you mean by this? Weren't you going to leave? Why are you still sitting here? Lu Fei, during these 5 years, have you ever regretted it? Ningmo gazed at me calmly. We were together for 7 years. If it weren't for that illness, I would never have believed, even until my dying day, that you would be the type of person to abandon me when life and death hung in the balance. I had once given Ningmo my heart and soul, which is why after our abrupt divorce, she nearly lost herself and suffered from severe depression. At this moment, my nails dug deeply into my flesh, and only the intense pain helped calm my agitated emotions. I will never regret it, Ningmo. When love is gone, it's gone. Why are you so persistent in coming here to demand an answer from me? She slapped me across the face, her long, sharp manicured nails leaving several deep red marks on my cheek. Then she turned away, tilting her head back to wipe away her tears. My heart twisted in pain, but I could only watch in silence. 5 minutes later, Ningmo regained his usual calm demeanor. She picked up her bag and left, saying softly as she went out the door, "If that's how it is, then get some rest. Consider it my charity. I've already paid the hospital fees, so I'll be going now." I opened my eyes and managed a weak smile. "Thanks for your charity. Go on back. Don't keep Si-chin waiting." Ningmo looked at me, a flash of complexity passing through her eyes, but ultimately, she turned and left. Just then, my phone suddenly vibrated, followed by a notification sound for a bank deposit. I picked up my phone, saw the number on the screen, and laughed bitterly to myself. It was the 200,000. Sichin had indeed kept his promise. Right after, a friend request popped up. After accepting it, Sichin immediately sent several photos, intimate pictures of him with Ning Mo. In the photos, Ning Mo was smiling brilliantly, her eyes full of happiness. Looking at these photos, my heart felt like it was being cut with a knife. Then Sichin's message came through again. I know what you're thinking. Now that you see Mo has become successful, you want to crawl back to her? Have you no shame? I stared at the screen, my hands trembling slightly, feeling a mixture of emotions. I wanted to argue with him, to say that I never intended to disrupt Ning Mo's life. But I also knew that none of it mattered anymore. Afterward, I took a deep breath and, as if punishing myself, saved each of these photos one by one. Tears unconsciously blurred my vision, but I struggled hard not to let them fall. Perhaps triggered by the emotional shock, a sudden, intense cramping pain shot through my stomach. I lay on the bed clutching my abdomen, cold sweat breaking out on my forehead. Then, a mouthful of fresh blood gushed from my mouth, staining the bedsheet red once again. The nurse, hearing the commotion, quickly rushed over. Seeing me coughing up blood, her expression changed as she hurriedly supported me. Mr. Liu, what's happening? Hang in there, I'll call the doctor right away. Wasn't it just high blood pressure? Why is he coughing up blood now? Worried that she would tell Ning Mo, I quickly waved my hand and said weakly, it's not necessary. I'm fine. The nurse obviously didn't believe me and anxiously said, you're coughing up blood. How can you be fine? I'm going to call the doctor. I grabbed her hand and shook my head. Really, there's no need. I know my own body. Hearing this, the nurse stopped insisting and looked at me with eyes full of concern. Then at least let me help you clean up. I nodded and allowed her to wipe the blood from the corner of my mouth. After she was done, I took out my phone and sent a message to the cemetery administrator. I've paid the remaining balance. Let's complete the handover in a week. After sending the message, I felt dizzy again, my vision darkened, and I passed out once more. I lay on the hospital bed, my consciousness gradually becoming fuzzy, but I could faintly hear the nurse's anxious voice. She seemed to be on the phone with someone, her tone filled with worry. Miss Ning? This is the Central City Hospital. I'm the nurse in charge of Mr. Liu. His condition is very poor right now. Could you please come over? My heart tightened. That nurse had indeed told Ning Mo about my condition. I wanted to try to stop her, but my body felt drained of all strength. I couldn't even muster the energy to speak. Not long after, the hospital room door was suddenly pushed open. I thought it was Ning Mo arriving, and my heart became flustered. However, the person who appeared at the doorway was Sichin. His face was gloomy, his eyes filled with anger and disgust. After quickly walking to my bedside, without saying anything, he lifted his foot and gave me a vicious kick. You still can't behave yourself, huh? Just because you coughed up some blood, you actually wanted to make Mo come see you. I let out a muffled groan from his kick, my body curling up from the pain. I tried to struggle, but my body felt completely drained of strength. Even moving slightly was difficult. And Sichin seemed not yet satisfied. He grabbed my collar with one hand, pinning me forcefully onto the bed. His face was very close to mine. I could clearly see the fury in his eyes. You worthless piece of trash. How do you have the face to still be alive? You even want Momo to come see you. Are you worthy? I opened my mouth, wanting to refute him, but couldn't make any sound from my throat. My body trembled from weakness. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I held them back strongly to prevent them from falling. Sichin looked at me, his lips curled into a mocking smile. What? Going to cry? Garbage like you only deserves to wait for death in a place like this. My emotions became exceptionally agitated due to his humiliation and oppression. My nose suddenly felt hot, followed by a warm flow gushing from my nostrils. When Sichin saw me having a nosebleed, he frowned, his face showing an expression of disgust. He released his hand, stepping back a few steps, as if I were some kind of filth. Fuck, it's really fucking dirty. Sichin cursed while pulling a handkerchief from his pocket to wipe his hands. I felt a wave of dizziness, but my heart was filled with despair and humiliation. Sichin dragged me out of the hospital room, pulling me all the way to the hospital entrance. Then he took out a stack of money from his pocket and threw it on me. Isn't this all you're worth? This is your hush money. Don't cause me any more trouble, or I'll kill you. Looking at the money, I felt a sharp pain in my heart. After a long while, I finally struggled to get up from the ground. I wiped the nosebleed with a tissue, straightened my clothes, then picked up the money from the ground and stumbled toward home. The gazes of passers-by made me feel utterly ashamed, but I couldn't care about that anymore. An hour later, I finally returned to my rented apartment. As soon as I entered, I collapsed on the floor. I clutched the money and burst into tears. Tears poured out like a broken dam's flood, and I felt myself on the edge of collapse. After crying, my emotions settled a little. I sat on the floor, looking at the money, my heart filled with complicated emotions. I suddenly realized that I now had nothing left. Since there were only 7 days remaining anyway, I might as well take this opportunity to say a proper goodbye. Then I took out my phone and dialed Chi-Chin's number. Chi-Chin was my childhood friend who grew up with me, and besides myself, the only person who knew the truth about what happened back then. The call connected quickly, and Chi-Chin's voice came through the receiver with a hint of worry. "Hello, Lu Fei, how are you? I heard about what happened at the club today." I forced a smile. "I'm fine, don't worry. By the way, are you free tonight? Let's go out for a meal." Chi-Chin was silent for a moment, then said, "Sure, let's meet at the usual place." In the evening, I arrived at the small restaurant we often visited. Chi-Chin was already sitting there waiting for me. Seeing me come in, he stood up and patted my shoulder. "You're here." I nodded and sat down. Chi-Chin looked at me with slightly furrowed brows. "You don't look well. Are you really okay?" I smiled. "It's nothing, just been too tired lately." But Chi-Chin stared at me, his eyes full of inquiry. "Lu Fei, you can't hide it from me. What exactly happened?" I looked at him, hesitating for a moment, but finally decided to tell him. "Chi-Chin, I've chosen a burial plot for myself." Chi-Chin's expression changed, his voice trembling slightly. "What did you say?" I took a deep breath and calmly said, "I'm in the late stages of uremia. The doctor says I don't have much time left. This burial plot, I selected it a while ago." Chi-Chin was stunned. After a moment, his voice choked up. "Why didn't you tell me sooner? Is this worth it? Trading your life for someone else's, when they don't even care about you anymore?" Hearing this, I shook my head and smiled bitterly. Back then, I just wanted to save her, nothing more. The fact that she's doing well now is the result of her own efforts. Chi-Chin looked at me, his eyes full of pain and pity. "Lu Fei, you're always like this, shouldering everything by yourself. Have you ever thought about what I'll do if you're gone?" My heart ached as I patted his shoulder. "Don't worry, I'm still here, aren't I? Besides, you still have your wife, don't you?" Then Chi-Chin shook his head. "You know that's not what I meant." I smiled and changed the subject. "All right, let's not talk about this anymore. Let's order my treat." We ordered a few dishes and chatted while eating. Chi-Chin tried to cheer me up by telling some funny stories from our childhood. I listened with a smile, but my heart was filled with complex emotions. After finishing dinner, we walked out of the restaurant. Chi-Chin insisted on taking me home, and I couldn't refuse, so I agreed. Back at the entrance of my rental apartment, I said goodbye to Chi-Chin. "Thank you for walking me home. You should head back now. Be careful on your way." Chi-Chin looked at me, hesitating as if wanting to say something, but eventually just nodded. "Take care of yourself. Call me if you need anything." I watched him leave, feeling a wave of emotion. As I turned to go upstairs, I suddenly felt someone behind me. My heart tightened as I spun around, only to see a familiar figure. It was Ningimo. She seemed drunk, with a dazed look in her eyes and swaying unsteadily. Before I could react, she suddenly stepped forward, grabbed me in an embrace, and pinned me against the wall. For some reason, my first thought was that her scent was still the same as before, familiar and warm. I felt a moment of confusion, and inexplicably didn't refuse. Then she lowered her head to kiss me, and I felt a rush of panic, but my body couldn't move. Time seemed to stand still in that moment, and it was only after 5 minutes that I finally came to my senses and pushed her away. "Ningimo, you're drunk." My voice was somewhat hoarse. Hearing this, Ningimo looked at me, her eyes filled with confusion and pain. "Lu Fei, I miss you so much." I felt a sharp pain in my heart, but reason told me that I couldn't get entangled with her anymore. "Ningimo, you should go back. We're already over." Ningimo looked at me, tears welling up in her eyes. Why? Why are you treating me like this?" I hardened my heart and turned away. "Because there's no possibility between us anymore. Go back and live well with Si-chun." After a long while, Ningimo finally raised her head, her eyes full of confusion and pain. Her voice trembled. "Lu Fei, what right do you have to make decisions for me? I came to find you today because I wanted to ask about one thing clearly. The kidney. Who exactly donated it to me back then?" My heart sank suddenly, countless thoughts flashing through my mind in an instant. "Ningimo, you." I had just started speaking when I realized my voice was hoarse, almost unable to say anything. While Ningimo looked at me, her eyes full of pleading. "Lu Fei, can you just tell me the truth? I've checked. Si-chun said he found someone to donate a kidney to me, but today when I went to the hospital to check, I discovered it wasn't him at all. The hospital won't tell me who that person was. You must know, don't you?" In that moment, my heart ached uncontrollably. How much I wanted to tell her the truth, that back then I had concealed it from her, secretly got tested for compatibility, and without hesitation gave her my kidney. But the words reached my lips, and I just couldn't speak them. Just then, a familiar voice came from behind me. "Lu Fei." I turned around to see Chi-Chin rushing over. His expression was solemn. Clearly, he had overheard our conversation. Chi-Chin quickly walked to my side, glanced at me, then turned to Ning Mo. Ning Mo, you want to know the truth, right? Ning Mo was stunned for a moment, then nodded. Yes, I want to know. Ignoring my attempts to stop him, Chi Chin said bluntly, fine, I'll tell you. The person who donated a kidney to you back then was this fool, Lu Fei. Ning Mo froze. After a moment, her voice trembling, she asked, what did you say? Chi Chin looked at me, his eyes full of pain and pity. Back then, after Lu Fei found out about your illness, he secretly got tested for compatibility, which is why his health has deteriorated to this state now. Tears streamed down Ning Mo's face as her body swayed unsteadily. No, that's impossible. How could it be him? Looking at Ning Mo, I felt a sharp pain in my heart. Ning Mo, I'm sorry I kept this from you all SA years. I just didn't want you to worry, didn't want you to suffer because of me. Hearing this, Ning Mo looked at me, her eyes filled with despair. Lu Fei, why would you do this? Don't you know this makes me feel even worse? I lowered my head as tears welled up in my eyes. I know, but I had no choice. I love you, Ning Mo. I couldn't just watch you die. Ning Mo didn't say anything more. Her legs weakened, and she fell backward. At that moment, hurried footsteps could be heard from the other end of the street. Ning Mo. The next second, Sichin ran up to us and quickly caught Ning Mo. Are you all right? Ning Mo looked at him, her eyes filled with complex emotions. Sichin, you knew all along, didn't you? You lied to me. Sichin's demeanor darkened. His eyes looked as if he wanted to kill me right then and there. But he still restrained himself and said to Ning Mo, Mo, would you rather believe someone who abandoned you in life and death than believe me? You know very well how I've treated you these 5 years. If I didn't love you, why would I publicly announce our relationship at the peak of my career to pave the way for your perfume business? Ning Mo lowered her gaze and remained silent. We all stood awkwardly face to face, waiting for her decision. After a long while, Ning Mo still chose Sichin. Lu Fei, you've taken advantage of my feelings for you and deceived me too many times. I can't trust you anymore. Although I don't know why you acted so convincingly, I believe in Sichin's love for me. He is the one who loves me most in this world. A bitter feeling spread through my heart. Of course it would be like this. Even though I had mentally prepared myself, hearing her say she didn't love me still hurt so much. After returning to my rented apartment, I lay on the bed and fell into a hazy sleep. Perhaps because I had experienced too many shocks today, I suddenly developed a high fever and almost didn't make it through. After taking medicine with my exhausted body, I fell asleep again. Early the next morning, I received a message from an unknown sender. Someone had sent me a package via courier and reminded me to collect it now. I thought it was someone's prank, but after forcing myself to get it despite my weak condition, I discovered it was a wedding invitation. The invitation was made very elaborately, enough to show the seriousness and anticipation both parties had for this wedding. I already had a premonition in my heart, and after opening it with trembling hands, I received a call from Ning Mo. I went to the hospital again to ask, and I found out that the person who donated bone marrow to me was someone Sichin found. Lu Fei, it's good that I didn't choose you yesterday. Our engagement ceremony is set for these few days. Won't you come and see? My chest felt stuffy as if a large stone was blocking it, but I didn't want Ning Mo to notice anything unusual. Is that so? That's great. I won't be attending the wedding. I hope you'll both be happy in the future. After saying that, I hung up the phone directly. Then, supporting myself against the table, I coughed up a large amount of blood. As consciousness gradually blurred, I could no longer support my broken body and completely passed out. When I opened my eyes again, I had somehow become a spirit form, following beside Ning Mo. It seems I had already died. Perhaps due to my deep obsession, I couldn't go anywhere except by her side. At this moment, she was leaning against Sichin's embrace, acting coquettishly, discussing where to go for their honeymoon. Honey, there are too many options. I really can't choose even though I've looked through them all. Ning Mo laughed and joked with him. Then why don't we go to all of them? Make it a world tour, so you won't have to choose. The atmosphere between them was sweet and happy, and even though I had already become a soul, I could still feel the stabbing pain in my chest. They kissed passionately again, and other people in the room tactfully withdrew. Suddenly, Ning Mo's phone rang. What did you say to Lu Fei? He could have stayed completely uninvolved, and he said he wouldn't bother you anymore. Why did you still send him an invitation to say such venomous words to provoke him? It was Chi Chin calling. His voice was trembling, almost hysterical. While Ning Mo frowned and spoke contemptuously, he deceived me first and even tried to drive a wedge between me and Sichin. I was just letting him know not to pursue me anymore. How is that so unbearable? Chi Chin was furious on the other end of the phone. He's dead. He won't ever pursue you again. Are you satisfied now? My heart was in my throat, waiting to see how Ning Mo would react. But she just snorted dismissively and hung up the phone, saying, First they can't use the kidney transplant excuse anymore. Now they're using death to threaten me. Will they ever stop? Chen Si beside her had a flash of guilt across his face, but quickly agreed. That's right, honey. Why bother with people like that? Just block them. Ning Mo kissed Chen Si. Sorry for putting you through this. After we're married, I'll make it up to you properly. After they spent some intimate moments together, Chen Si made an excuse to go out for a smoke and called someone to confirm. Is that worthless guy really dead? I followed him outside and saw him laughing with great delight. Finally dead. Now no one will disturb me and Xiao Mo anymore. What does it matter if he got a kidney transplant? Xiao Mo won't believe him and will never know the truth. Inside the house, Ning Mo saw the wedding ring that Si Chun had carelessly left on the floor, smiled slightly, and thought about going out to give it to him. And so she witnessed this entire scene without missing anything. He stood frozen in place, listening to Si Chen's laughter, her expression gradually becoming more devastated. That fool Lu Fei should actually thank me. I let him appear in front of Xiao Mo, just so he would quickly get stimulated and die sooner. Otherwise, given his social status, even with that private room incident, he wouldn't have gotten close to Xiao Shui. I desperately wanted to rush over and punch Si Chen twice, but whenever I tried to touch him, I would just pass through him like air. The wedding ring in Ning Mo's hand fell to the ground, alerting Si Chen. He quickly hung up the phone and walked rapidly toward Ning Mo. Momo, listen to my explanation. I was just joking just now. You didn't take it seriously, did you? I shouldn't have said that. I'm really sorry. While Ning Mo shrank back involuntarily, as if seeing a monster. Seeing Ning Mo like this, the guilt and unease in Si Chen's heart were instantly replaced by anger. His eyes reddened as well, his voice trembling with a hint of madness. You're afraid of me? Why? Even if I deceived you, I truly, genuinely loved you. Ning Mo's body trembled slightly as she stared fixedly at Si Chen, her voice cold and resolute. Love me? Is this how you love me? Deceiving me, hiding things from me, even willing to hurt Lu Fei to achieve your goal. Si Chen's face became distorted. He stepped forward, attempting to grab Ning Mo's shoulders. Ning Mo, enough, don't push me. Ning Mo let out a cold laugh, her eyes filled with determination. Force you? Today I'm going to force you to explain everything clearly. What really happened with the kidney back then? Why did Lu Fei end up like this? Speak. What else are you hiding? At these words, Si Chen finally lost control. He suddenly reached out and violently shoved Ning Mo away. Caught off guard, Ning Mo stumbled back several steps, the back of her head hitting the hard wall. She felt a sharp pain, her vision went black, and she lost consciousness. Si Chen let out a cold snort, stepped forward again, and kicked Ning Mo viciously, his voice cold and resolute. You're just a worthless person. You don't deserve how wholeheartedly I've treated you. Ning Mo's body twitched slightly, but she still didn't wake up. Si Chen looked at her, his heart filled with complicated emotions. Afterward, he crouched down, reached out his hand, and gently caressed Ning Mo's cheek, his voice low and hoarse. Why? Why won't you believe me? Why did you have to investigate those matters? His voice grew increasingly quiet, eventually becoming a murmur. Since you want to know the truth so badly, I'll tell you. Back then, Lu Fei did indeed give you a kidney transplant. Including the hospital witness I found for you yesterday, they were also bribed by me. Ning Mo's eyelashes trembled violently, as if she had heard Si Chen's words in her unconscious state. And the latter slapped her aga, saying with reckless abandonment, I've told you the truth, so you and Lu Fei can both go to hell. After speaking, Si Chen stood up and left without looking back. I watched his retreating figure, my heart filled with mixed emotions. As a soul, I could no longer inflict any substantial revenge on him. I could only float to Ning Mo's side, looking at her unconscious state, my heart filled with guilt and sorrow. She could have had a happy life, but because of me, she was once again caught up in an undeserved disaster. Time passed minute by minute, second by second, as I waited anxiously. Finally, 15 minutes later, a passerby discovered Ning Mo lying on the ground. He quickly walked over, crouched down, checked Ning Mo's breathing, then immediately took out his phone to call for emergency help. Someone is injured here, unconscious. Please send an ambulance quickly. I floated nearby, silently praying that Ning Mo would be safe and sound. The ambulance arrived soon after, and medical staff quickly lifted Ning Mo onto a stretcher and took her to the hospital. Ning Mo was taken into the emergency room, and I could only wait anxiously outside. Time seemed to become incredibly long, each second feeling like a century. Finally, the emergency room door opened, and the doctor walked out. The patient is out of danger now, but will need to remain hospitalized for observation for some time. I felt a sense of relief, floating to Ning Mo's bedside, looking at her pale face, my heart filled with complex emotions. After some time, Ning Mo finally slowly opened her eyes. She looked around, her eyes filled with confusion and fear. Call the police. Quickly call the police. Si Chen harmed Lu Fei, and he tried to kill me too. Hearing this, The nurse was momentarily stunned, then reassured her. Don't worry, I've already called the police for you. They'll be here soon. Not long after, 2 police officers arrived at the hospital room. They asked Ning Mo about what had happened, and Ning Mo told them everything in detail. The police officers carefully recorded Ning Mo's testimony, their brows furrowed. Thank you for providing these leads. We will begin our investigation immediately. After saying this, the police officers left the hospital room. Finally, following the police investigation, Si Chun was quickly arrested. His crimes were exposed one by one, including bribing the hospital, falsifying evidence, and intentional harm. The news immediately caused a huge stir online, with Chun Si's actions provoking great public outrage. His company also immediately issued a statement announcing the termination of their contract with Chun Si, and stated they would fully cooperate with the police investigation. Chun Si's entertainment career was completely ruined, and the enormous debt he bore also left him in a desperate situation. I floated nearby, watching everything unfold, feeling a sense of relief in my heart. Chun Si finally received the punishment he deserved, and I could finally let go of the obsession in my heart. Although Ning Mo was out of life-threatening danger, she had still suffered tremendous psychological trauma. She announced the dissolution of her engagement with Chun Si, and after being discharged from the hospital, she came to our former rented apartment. She held my belongings, looking at the bloodstains on the sheets that hadn't been cleaned yet, her face streaming with tears. Lu Fei, you big fool. Why wouldn't I believe you back then? I sighed, yet realized that I could finally stop lingering around Ning Mo. I then found Chi Chin, who was sitting in front of his computer, staring blankly at the trending news. The news of Si Chen being sentenced to death made tears stream down his face. Lu Fei, did you see? I finally got justice for you. Chi Chin's voice choked with emotion, tears continuously rolling down. As I looked at him, my heart was filled with gratitude and comfort. I gently patted his shoulder, though he couldn't feel it. I believed he could sense my presence. Just then, a warm light surrounded me. I looked up and saw a pillar of light appear in the sky. It was time to leave. I took one last look at Chi Chin,